Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are, and welcome to NerdTube. We are talking Star Trek Picard Season 2, Episode 7, Monster. Should have come out on Halloween, this episode, in my opinion. It would have been absolutely perfect. Well, close to perfect. Nevertheless, I'm here with a couple of Trekkies as well. First of all, let me introduce you to my usual co-host, Cousin Cheeto. How you doing, mate?
Always a pleasure to be here to talk about Trek, baby.
And somebody new to our scene who's been with us a couple of times now for other streams as well as this one. Major Rage, how you doing?
Doing great. Proud to be here as always. Thank you guys for having me.
You're welcome, dude. You're welcome. So this episode kind of ended up being what we were kind of talking about last week. It was one where he has to have a battle within himself, a battle with his mind. Understand who he really is, make peace with himself, all of that shit. But we did get some decent subplots as well regarding Agnes and obviously Rafi and Seven trying to find her, as well as Rios hitting on that goddamn gorgeous doctor and being a father figure to her son. But in this episode, we start off with Picard having a one-on-one with his shrink, a gentleman by the name of Jack Callis. Sorry, an actor by the name of Jack Callis, who's been in Battlestar Galactica, I believe. Is that correct? Any of you guys can confirm that?
I'm not familiar with Galactica.
Yeah,
Likewise.
well, Dana Vance confirmed it, but I thought I saw a comparison online. I've never watched Battlestar Galactica. I know of it. I know everyone tells me I should watch it, but I just haven't yet.
Yeah, for me, like the Dirk Benedict, 1979 Star Wars ripoff was like the Battlestar Galactica, and other than that, it was just everything else was just a pile of bollocks. A synth being interviewed by G.S. Baltar, Battlestar Galactica deep cut. I wish they'd given him four pipes though, as a callback to the Four Lights interrogation episode. Well, we did get some other callbacks, and I think there was a little bit of a Four Light callback as well, but it was more something you saw visually than necessarily verbally. But we'll get on to that. So, Major Rage, this episode, did it kind of play out the way you expected it, and were you happy that it wasn't maybe too formulaic? It was very formulaic in some areas, not in all areas. They did wrap it up before the episode ended, so to speak, and then they got on to the next problem. So, you know, but how did you find this episode? So before we start breaking it down, how did you find this episode as a whole?
I really enjoyed the episode. Getting to the core of who Jean-Luc is, psychologically speaking, kind of exploring his character and what really does make him tick, find out more about his backstory. That's all the sort of stuff that I was hoping to see out of the show when it was first announced. And it's a lot of stuff that I feel that we didn't get in the first season. So I was really pleased with the episode. I, like you guys, I did kind of see that battle within his own mind coming, but it was done a lot better than it could have been done. It could have
I
been.
agree. I agree. There was almost like two battles. There was one of him as an adult with the guy with the shrink, and there was one of him as a kid. And some of the special effects were pretty cool. I have to admit, when he was with his mum as a child, and you see all the sort of like the stained glass windows coming to life, so to speak. Had that what was the name of that video game? Oh no, it escapes me now.
Kingdom Hearts.
No, 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 no. You
That's
play
the only
like a
game that I
little
know that has stained
you little
glass
play a
windows.
little you play a little sack guy, and
Little Big Planet.
yeah, that's it. It reminded me of Little Big Planet to a
God, I hated
degree.
that game.
Yeah, but nevertheless, it was some good special effects. They go running away and stuff like that with monsters and stuff. How do you find it, Cousin Cheeto, overall?
I didn't like it at all. I feel like this past trauma with Picard is being manufactured We've never, as far as I can tell, we've never heard of any of this in the past of Star Trek, of Picard having family drama and stuff like that. And I get it. I felt like a lot of this was manufactured for the episode for the sake of having an episode of Picard discovering himself. I honestly would have much preferred this if maybe this was Raffi's episode, like she was dealing with internal trauma, or maybe not Seven. Like, one of the newer characters, like not just
Raffi would have been ideal, especially with the fact that she's like mourning over Elnor, dying too. So,
and when you get to the end, I've got some big issues with the end, because I'm like, definitely this has been, for me, this has been the worst episode so far, and.
Problem after problem after problem.
Yeah, it's like I'll just say it now. We can get into it more detail later, but it's like at the end, they have a cliffhanger for the sake of having a cliffhanger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when all that cop stuff happens, it's like, what? Like, okay, at the end of last episode, Picard gets hit. He's stuck in his own mind, and then in this one, it's like, okay, now the feds show up. It's like, for God's sake, like we don't need a cliffhanger at the end of every episode. I feel like. I mean, or, they could have made a revelation at the end of this episode rather than a cliffhanger, because we had a cliffhanger last episode with Picard being in a coma. So it's just, this episode, I had a lot of issues with this episode. The CGI was pretty good. I did enjoy the moments with Picard and the shrink. I didn't care so much about the kid and what's her name? Now I don't even remember her name.
Oh, his mom. Oh, no. Laris.
Laris, yeah. I call her Laris. And then at the end, we get another reveal there that is just kind of snuffed out by the, again, manufactured, there's another revelation at the end of this episode that is snuffed out by the manufactured cliffhanger that we got at the end. So, there's just a lot of issues with this episode. And and I only hold it to this high of a standard because, to me, this season has been really good from beginning to now. You know what I mean? Like, this series has been really good this season from beginning to now. And it really is starting to irk me with what they're doing. It's almost like they're doing these things just to get through 10 episodes, which really makes me mad. Anyway.
Yeah, this was definitely filler, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
The star we see out the window in Picard's ready room and the model in room are both the same star from the Voyager intro. Yeah, actually, maybe Daniel's already alluding to this, but can someone explain to me that big orange ball? Is that the star?
Yeah.
But why? It felt very, it felt like it had purpose.
Like a focal point, maybe. I mean, if there is, maybe Daniel Vance knows, but I just thought it was a star, like our sun.
Mage?
There might be some symbolism there. I can't put my finger on what it could be, but I feel like I agree with Cheeto. It was placed there purposefully.
Yeah, you're given it, by the shrink.
Yeah.
By Shrink Dad, and that I just watching it twice, I thought I may be able to understand it the second time around. I still couldn't figure it out. But as we jump between him and his older self and his younger self, it's kind of like listening to the dialogue and stuff like that. It's hard to understand what the fuck is going on, and in a way, like this trauma Picard's going through, he already knew this trauma. He knew that his mum was nuts, basically. His mum had mental problems, which is what we kind of understood. And his dad had to deal with it. And at a young age, it kind of looked like his dad was being mean to his mum when really he was just restraining his mum, putting her in the bedroom, so to speak, so she wouldn't hurt herself. I mean, her mum was fucked in the head, which I found a little bit amusing. I don't know what you guys thought of that revelation, Mage.
I think I kind of saw that coming with the mother suffering from mental illness as well. They foreshadowed it with Renee talking about it and Jean-Luc replying, yes, that's something I've encountered in my family.
Okay.
It kind of anything dealing with mental illness kind of resonates with me. I've had my own struggles with it, still do, and I like to see positive representation of it. And this probably wasn't the best representation, but at least it's being normalized.
Do you like? I want to try and make sure I say this as respectfully as possible. Do you not look at this more as insanity than mental illness? Like what the mum was suffering from?
It seemed to me like it was being sold as some sort of schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder with affective paranoia, but it was being sold as severe enough to be questionable. Maybe does this person need to be put somewhere to protect themselves and others? But were you going to add something, Cheeto?
No, you said no. Yeah, I was waiting for you to finish.
I think that's all I've got for the moment.
Fair enough. And we also get the reveal. I mean, because I want to get through this all of this because, in all honesty, it was a bit silly. We get Laris going in there now with the white eyes and shit like that, which is pretty cool. Good special effects. She's got this device over her ear, which looks like it's designed for a Vulcan or a Romulan ear to fit in perfectly. And I think that was obviously foreshadowing what ends up happening later on in this episode. When she revealed, I'm going to mention it now, when she reveals herself to be a Romulan, which was pretty cool. So she was a Romulan all of this time. And I'm not sure how this conflicts with the original series regarding meeting the Romulans for the first time and the wars before all of that. And she seems to be one of the good Romulans, so to speak, because a lot of Romulans seem to have a fucking chip on their shoulder, and she seems to like have her head straight. But all right, we'll continue. But she's in that timeline. She's in that timeline. She's in Picard's mind. We find out that this dude is Picard's father, and he's not really the arsehole Picard always assumed he would be. But there was always one person missing through all of this, and I'm kind of surprised. Was Picard's brother? Yeah.
Thank you.
Where the fuck is he? Yeah, where the fuck is he? Like, he should be there too. Like, did you not experience this shit with your brother? It was his older brother as well, I believe. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It was kind of implied that there was domestic violence during like episode 402 of TNG Brothers. I feel like they talk about how hard they had it growing up. It seemed implied there that there was some sort of trouble at home. Maybe Renee was already knocked out.
Okay. Oh yeah,
bad joke.
Yeah.
Bad joke.
Well, yeah, Renee. It's funny as well. Like we did miss out on some significant characters. So let me just really read what Daniel Vance says here. A lot of couples of Stuart's parents' age elected to keep someone with mental illness at home, as the alternative at the time was an asylum. You don't do that with someone you love. I guess not. I sometimes think it's kind of heartbreaking as well, because like the person you loved probably will never come back, which is also a shame as well. Like, how do you recover from that? Sometimes it's just a downward spiral of getting worse and worse, like dementia and Alzheimer's and things like that. But maybe at a younger age, with other sort of forms of mental illness. Okay, so we find out Laris is a Romulan after all. So do you think my theory of her being a watcher for Picard in the future is on point?
I think
same Laris.
I think they said. I think that Picard said in there that she was a descendant, that Laris was a descendant of.
Yeah, that's what he assumes, because.
Yeah, I mean, I guess she didn't confirm it, but.
Yeah.
How would she know? She's in the past. You know what I mean?
Do Romulans live for a long time, like Vulcans?
I mean, I'm trying to remember. I know that Vulcans live for like 300 years, and Vulcans and Romulans are the same like evolutionary branch because they were originally from the same planet.
Mhm.
So I would say 300 years, so 2024 to 23. So she would be a pretty old Romulan by the time, by the time she got there. I think they say like 350 years before. Sorry, I was reading the comment that Daniel Vance just said, but yeah, but yeah, I would say it's improbable unless the Watchers did something to her that gave her longer life. I think it is improbable that is Laris.
Okay. When Talon is first walking through Picard's Chamber of Horrors, one image that we see is of a skeleton with another skeleton in a small pod. Guilt over Jack Wesley Crusher. I never noticed that.
Yeah, I didn't notice
No.
it either.
Well, I just noticed like some of the horror elements of it, like when that ghoul, got hold of Laris and tried to strangle her and stuff, and she just gave it a backwards headbutt and just was fine with it. I mean, this thing was, freakishly horrible looking, but she was cool dealing with it. But then again, she is a Romulan, so she's probably got more power even in the mind world. I don't know. It's very bizarre, all this mind bollocks. It really is. Going into someone's memories and all that nonsense. Oh God. Anyway, we do get the recovery of Picard eventually. Like once he makes peace with his dad, he has a key. But this storyline with the mother doesn't seem to be over because there seems to be more to this. But before any of that was revealed, Picard wakes up from his coma, and he's ready to go. And he needs to see the Q. That's when Laris obviously reveals to him that, regarding the ear and stuff like that. And we'll get to that in a little bit, but I want to get to some of the subplots now. First one is, we'll start with Captain Rios and him and the Hot Doctor. Now, he's been playing very nice, and we had a fantastic callback to Voyage Home in this episode. Because Rios, like he's so smitten, so in love with this doctor that he basically tells her everything. And when she starts to realize, hold on, are you from outer space? He goes, no, I'm from Chile. I actually only work in outer space. And I thought to myself, that's just fantastic. They've done exactly what they did in Voyage Home. Another Voyage Home callback in this series as well. Maybe we'll get another one eventually. Who knows? Maybe they go visit some whales or some shit like that. Who knows? But yeah,
whales here.
That was they can go to that glass shop and the guy's like a multi-billionaire because he's got this fantastic glass,
translucent aluminum. Yeah.
So that was a nice moment. And then like you kind of see what's going on here to a degree. We see the doctor mentioned to Rios, you really care for Picard, don't you? And he says, yeah, well, he's like a father figure to me. And then as he's saying that, he's looking at this young lad, and he's becoming a bit of a father figure to him, and all of that. So, Major Rage, do you think there will be a happy or unhappy ending regarding this? Because we've already seen one person from the past, the whale lady from Voyage Home, go to the future. Doesn't mean it can't happen here, but would she want to do that, considering all the good she's trying to do for the people who need medical attention, and she's doing it for free? Or do you think she'll end up leaving with Rios and going to the future with her son?
I think this show's been a little darker tint and everything isn't always a happy ending. So I'm thinking that something will come up. Either like you said, she'll decide that she needs to stay in her time period to make a difference, especially if, say, Rios were to try to warn her how bad things were about to get on Earth. She seems like the type of character who would double down. She's like, well, then I definitely need to stay.
Actually, I'm kind of just one interruption. I just had an epiphany. Maybe it's Rios's interruption in the timeline of taking her back to the future. it's kind of what changes the timeline.
And could mess
Because
everything
without,
up.
Yeah, without her being there and being like the empathetic voice and being the good guy, good girl, good doctor, so to speak, to help all these people. Without her doing that, maybe in a way it does change the timeline, so to speak. So she has to stay.
That's a definite possibility. You just hit what I was about to say.
Oh, fair enough.
No, that's fine. No, I like it. Great minds think alike.
Yeah,
I was going to say there'd be some sort of hang up and she's vital and has to stay there.
yeah, a bit like Joan
Maybe
Collins.
Door to Tomorrow. Was that the name of the original series episode?
Yeah, the one with Joan Collins.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree with Daniel Vance. I think Rio, if anything happens, if they don't part ways, Rios will stay in the past, is what I think will happen. I mean, he's been talking about, oh, I love this time period. Oh, look, a real cigar. Oh, look, unreplicated food. Like, they've kind of been pounding it home. So if they don't part ways, I feel like Rios will stay, because next season, we all know we've got a pretty stacked cast, which I hope doesn't happen, because I actually like Rios. I mean, I like
Rios.
I like Rios.
too.
I like Rios this season a lot more than I did last season.
Yeah.
I liked his holograms better last season. So his holograms were much
He's
better.
a talented actor, dude. You know, when you see him with the holograms and stuff like that,
but that's
you
what I'm
realize
saying.
how
Like,
talented he is.
I really don't want him to stay now. Like last season, Rios, I might have been okay with it, but like this season, I'm kind of like, I kind of like Rios at this point. I kind of want him to stick around. So I mean, and I feel like if they do bring her and the hot doctor and her kid to the future, it's a little too on the nose of a Voyage Home reference. I feel like, I mean, I don't mind a nod here and there, but when they're basically copying and pasting plot points, over that's when I'm like, you could have put a little spice variance into it or something like that.
Yeah, she seems too unselfish to leave everything behind and just go to the future. And even then, like I said, it might not rectify the situation. It might make things worse. So, yeah, I hope she stays, actually. But if Rio stays behind too, I'll be gutted. This should be kind of bittersweet. Like, it's a romance that can never have, two people who are fond of each other, but unfortunately, it can never come to being because of them being in different timelines. It can be kind of tragic, and there's nothing wrong in that. Let's read a couple of things what Daniel Vance is saying. Watching Rios, I keep hearing Ray Stevens in my head singing, I'm my own grandpa. Okay.
I'm my own grandpa.
It must be an American thing. I don't know about that shit.
Yeah,
the
it's
device
an
they
American
used,
thing. That's why it's so good.
The device they used to control brainwave resembled the parasites from TNG episode Conspiracy, where a bunch of admirals are being controlled. The head explosion episode.
Yep.
Yes, I remember. That was one of my favorite episodes, by the way.
Season 1, man, that was a dark and gritty.
Was that season 1 or season 2?
It's season 1. It's near. It's like the end of season 1.
Okay, fair enough. I love that episode.
Those kind of episodes, those blended together the first couple of seasons of TNG, especially there near the transition.
Mm-hmm.
Well, by the way, just another thing. Like, he speaks to Raffi very quickly when Picard's going through a little bit of an episode. Once the hot doctor realizes, she's once she gets into a clinic, and Rios then brings out this brain modular thingy. It looks like a tripod, and
looks like a
two-headed
two-headed knife.
This is the funny thing. Like, who is more qualified to use this device? A doctor from the 21st century, or pretty much every Starfleet officer is a quantum physicist. So somebody from from his century. Who's more qualified? And I would say, but here you go. When she's holding this thing, she has no idea what the fuck it is.
I feel like Rios could have handled it because all he was doing was the same thing. He's like,
exactly.
No, modern day military officers are trained in basic field medicine stuff. I mean, by the I mean, the 25th century is where they're at for the present, right? Where Picard, and that's their right.
20, yeah, they just crossed in the 25th century.
Yeah, the technology level, the training, Rios would be on a way different level medically than this doctor. I feel like, at least as far as familiarity with the device, they probably don't know why he didn't just handle that one there.
Yeah, I remember in Star Trek Generations, Chekhov, he became a doctor for a little while. At the beginning of the film, when the Enterprise B gets fucked up a bit, Chekhov, he becomes the medical officer. So these guys have got many strings to their bows. I remember one episode of DS9, you got Bashir trying to repair the shuttlecraft. He's a doctor. He's a doctor, Jim, not a fucking engineer. But he was fucking trying to repair the goddamn shuttlecraft.
Well,
so yeah.
And they always talk about, I think in Voyager, a lot of times they mention, oh, I took the base field mechanics course at Starfleet Academy, or there's some kind of general course in every department. Like, it's like, okay, so I know a little bit of medical. Like, if you're a con officer or a comm officer, a little bit enough about engineering to hobble something together to get yourself out of a situation. Like the actuator connects to the gibbity bobbity boo, or whatever, and you just. Yeah, like I think they're kind of all around trained in all avenues a little bit, but they have an expertise in a certain area.
Yeah, Academy seems a lot like a 4-year institution, and they probably have a couple of years of course before they hit their specializations.
Well, in this episode, is like we don't give a fuck about the timeline anymore and hiding shit.
Pretty much.
Yeah, no. Temporal prime directive be damned.
So you got Rios now, like he's so all in now. Like, you want to see something really cool, and she transports the Doctor and her son to the ship. They're overwhelmed by it, but that was the last we see of them in this episode. So we'll see what happens regarding next episode. But I love that kid saying, "I'm going to touch everything."
That was hilarious.
That is a fucking little kid thing to say. I'm going to touch everything. It's like, oh, you little shit. Like, he sounds just like a kid.
He's precocious. He's like, you didn't even use the good swear words.
So we sorry, let me just quickly read what Daniel was saying. It's like teaching everyone automotive repair today. Yeah, I guess.
Well, that's like me. Let's say, like, I know how to change my brakes and change a tire. But if you sit me in front of an engine, I'm not going to be able to do anything with it.
Exactly. So 7 and 9 and Raffi, they are back on Rios' ship, and they try to punch in a few things here and there, and they realize that they've been locked out their computer. Later on, we find out with 7 and 9 remembering some of her Borg, still having her Borg memories, even though she doesn't have her Borg implants. She's able
got
to
Borg implants, all right.
Yeah. But yeah, she uses her memories to jailbreak into the computer, and then they realize Agnes is now being taken over. Well, they don't know what the extent is. They know that Agnes is definitely is being assimilated to a degree, but not heavily assimilated that she can assimilate other people.
Mm-hmm.
And we view some footage of Agnes, and I'll be honest with you, I thought she was going to assimilate that whole fucking bar. Have you guys ever seen the movie The Hidden and stuff like that?
I don't think so.
Or like I've seen some like horrific films. Like there's one called I think it's called Teeth, where this girl's got like
teeth. Oh,
yeah, with the girl with the monster vagina, and
okay, I have not seen that.
I'm just thinking to myself, like, if she like shag somebody, will she like assimilate them while she's shagging them? You know what I mean, or something along those lines. Because she's like, once they connect to her, the two become one, so to speak. All of a sudden she's able to assimilate them with her nanobot juices. Anyways, let me just read this. The bar they find Jurati is called Deacon, probably a reference to Jeffrey Deacon, who served as Stewart's photo double and recurring background actor in TNG. These are so minor, man. Thank you very much.
We need Daniel Vance. Me and you need to get together, and every week we can do like the top, like the things you missed from, like, because I mean, a ton of people do these videos already, but I mean, we could do it. Like, we could do a top 10 things you missed from Star Trek Picard episode 7 or something like that. Because God, you notice all this stuff.
I was thinking, I'm like, man, should he be here instead of me?
I mean, well, he shouldn't be here instead of you, but we've offered him to be on here. I just don't think he's, he enjoys being in the chat.
Is he camera shy?
He might be.
Well, look, like, just to go.
We could ask him. He's in the chat.
There's a couple of guys I play FIFA with, and I've been playing FIFA with them for like 5-6 years. I've never heard their voice in that 5-6 years, and in that time, I don't want to ever hear their voice because I'm so used to not knowing who they are and only them responding to me through typing. When that's the only way. Like, they send me messages. That's how I know them. Everyone else is on the microphone. These two guys ain't. And I want it to remain like that. And if Daniel Vance ever joined us, I want him to be silhouetted so we don't see him, and him to use some sort of audio, something to change his voice.
He's under witness protection.
Yeah. A bit like the bad guy villain from Police Academy 6. We don't know what he looks like. We don't know what he sounds like. And that's how I want Daniel Vance to come on. That would be absolutely fucking awesome. But back to this. So
he's probably like, get back to the show, guys.
Yeah. So we see Agnes. This is a bit weird. Like there's a whole bunch of things she could do to get a rush, but she decides to go into this fucking bar, and she goes in there. Her jubblies are just wobbling about, and she's got a resting bitch face on as well. And she realizes she needs to get those endorphins going, so she smashes a glass window, and we never saw the repercussions of that,
Yeah.
But there's so many Karens nowadays in America. They're probably thought, oh, here's another one, and so maybe they just let her be. But nevertheless, Seven was able to understand by throwing a glass bottle.
Oh, here's an interesting tidbit. Another interesting tidbit.
The singing Deacon Stewart's wife is Sunny Ozil. Who the hell is that?
It's Patrick Stewart's wife.
Oh, when he said Stewart's wife, the singer?
Well, he wasn't talking about Stuart Little.
I had no idea Patrick Stewart had a wife like half his fucking age.
Yeah. I mean, fair. If you were Patrick Stewart, you'd probably have a wife half your age too.
Yeah, probably. Anyway, so we realize that these endorphins is what is keeping the Borg Queen in charge, and eventually she could take over the body completely, and then she'll be able to assimilate the whole fucking planet. And so more problems now, probably the biggest problem of the lot. Now, all the things they have to deal with, whether they've revealed themselves or not, Agnes becoming a Borg Queen is the top of the list. More important than getting back to the present, getting back to their future, their present, is to deal with making sure that Agnes never, even if it means them staying there, they must make sure that Agnes doesn't fucking take over the planet. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. What do you guys think of that? I'll start with you, Cousin Cheeto.
I mean, this is kind of the most predictable part of the whole episode, and I really didn't care for this much either. I mean, like, we know that Agnes was getting on the streets. I find it funny though that like when Raffi and Seven went to go to the scene where the bar, like the glass was still on the ground. It's the next day. Like nobody cleaned that up. Nobody from the bar. Nobody. I mean, like there's just glass just chilling on the ground still. I'm like, really? Like this is. I mean, I understand like if they had a board up on the window or something, but it's just like, what? Like there's a lot in this episode that irked me, and I was just like, I I don't know. That was stupid. The only I don't know if I said this earlier, but I'm going to say it now. The only good parts of this episode that I actually liked was Rios. Like Rios was the only part of this episode that I enjoyed. The Seven and Raffi stuff, and then their conversation about we're the main event. Oh, that Agnes and Rios thing happening again. Oh, they're like the side story or whatever. I'm like, are we trying to be meta? I'm like, are we trying to be meta or are we just trying to be dumb? Because this whole conversation just doesn't like and I felt like Seven. I'm like, are we really talking about this right now? Like the looks on Seven's faces, I'm like, yeah, that's me. That's me right now. I don't even care to hear this conversation.
Yeah, we can't be talking about our relationship when the whole fucking, when the whole of humanity's at stake right now. You know what I mean? Put that shit to one side.
Yeah.
You know? That's probably the good thing about, Seven's upbringing as being a Borg. She's not getting too emotional. And she sees the bigger picture, which is pretty good. What do you think of all of that? All this Agnes bollocks, Mage?
It seems like we should have more screen time for this part of it, since it is the biggest, most prescient threat right now. It's the biggest thing going on, but we have the least amount of screen time for it, forcing things like the rushed Seven throwing the bottle on the ground and having her Sherlock Holmes type leap of logic over that. It could have been elaborated upon and set up more naturally had they spent more time on the actual threat and not Rafi acting out of character and making meta jokes.
I agree. I do agree. So we tail off this episode with Picard needing to speak to the Q. As far as he's concerned, he's been playing defense all this time, so he's going to go on offense. God, these terminologies drive me nuts. But all right, okay, he's going to be doing that. He has to understand what the Q's all about, and then play the Q at his own game. Okay, so he goes back to see Guinan. He goes to the bar, and he sees Guinan, and he tells Guinan, "Look, I need you to summon the Q." So she pulls out.
Like, did we ever get any reference ever before in the entirety of Star Trek that Guinan? Like, I know that Guinan, like the Elorians and the Q have a history, but like, how does anybody know that an Elorian can summon a Q? I don't ever remember them mentioning that ever in any TNG or previous Picard episodes.
Yeah, I know.
Never anything on screen. Maybe it's something from a novel, but
I don't think they would put it in here if it was from a novel. Like,
I don't think
they would assume we knew that from a novel.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
Well, this part of the episode became a mixture of a genie coming out of a bottle, The Exorcist, and the quickening scene from fucking Highlander movies, because we had Guinan explain to Picard that we had this deal, and if we ever needed to summon them, we open up this bottle, and the frequency of opening up the bottle and all. Like, I was totally lost watching this twice. I still don't understand what the fuck she was talking about. But all right, we'll just go with it. Just go with it sometimes, you know what I mean? And she and then like she opens up the bottle, pours herself a shot, you know what I mean? And next the whole fucking bar's getting destroyed, summoning a fucking Q. She starts acting like she's possessed by a demon, go all that sort of stuff. Glass is breaking everywhere, you know what I mean? You expect fucking Christopher Lambert to say there can only be one. Like, what the hell's going on here? And no Q turns up. It was an epic fail. And so let me just quickly read this comment here. The one guy from 10 Forward is Jules Ducan, the first officer of the time ship USS Relativity, which sent the Seven hunting through time after Captain Braxton.
He beat me to it. I was going to mention that when it came to be my turn. I didn't know that until I saw it online. But
are we talking about that cop?
Yeah.
Okay, because we get this guy coming in, and coming in, and he's not a Q. So as far as we know, and
Guinan did her thing.
Yeah, Guinan did her thing. Yeah,
I was going to come to that when it came my turn. Damn.
But yeah, she did her thing, and there's something you could tell. There's something peculiar about this guy, and when he starts talking about sci-fi and stuff like that, you're thinking, where's this going?
I thought he was just a different Q. Like when he first came in, I'm
yeah, I thought he was a different Q as well.
He could
like they summoned a Q, not the Q.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, he could still be as well for sure. And then he pulls out his phone, and then there's a picture of earlier on Picard transporting 2 fucking 10 forward, and they're wondering what the fuck's going on. And these are feds, so they're not fucking around. You know what I mean? And so Picard quickly throws his communicator on the floor, because that's what you got to do nowadays. And
I'm surprised he didn't try to flush it down the toilet.
But it's kind of like it's kind of like a breadcrumb there as well. Like for anybody who comes searching for him, regarding his colleagues, and then he gets arrested. So it's now Picard's turn to get arrested. Rios earlier in the season, that's Picard, and Guinan too. She's a fucking alien anyway, and we have a whole new plethora of issues to deal with. We still got. So basically, we have now Picard and Guinan being arrested, and them revealing themselves as time travelers and people from the future and all of that, and spacemen and everything else. Brios has already revealed that to the Hot Doctor and her kid. Agnes is loose on the streets and could eventually assimilate the whole fucking planet, and could be the new Ball Queen. We still have the issues regarding Q, and Adam Sung, as well as Renee Picard. Which, I mean, there's a whole
we
bunch
saw
of shit.
None of these people in this entire episode. Like we didn't see Q, we didn't see Adam Sung, we didn't see Renee Picard. I mean, I know she's in quarantine, but it's like we didn't see any of them.
Daniel Grant says, sorry, wait, I'll get to you one sec. I think it all has to do in part with the temporal Cold War and the truth that took place between Q and the El-Orians mentioned in TNG. Sorry, Mage, what would you want to say?
Lost it. Sorry.
No problem. Regarding the characters who are missing, like Renee and Q and Sung, who were not in this episode today.
We haven't seen Q in 2 episodes.
Q's hardly been in this.
I know John Delancey's been pretty absent. I was hoping he would be around at least a bit more.
He's been heavily plugged as a significant player in this season, and he's hardly been in it. And we've got 3 episodes left now. We're in the end game, people. Pun intended. So we're looking to wrap things up, but I just feel they've opened up more. They've opened up more problems for themselves as well. I don't know where Laris is now, because she wasn't with Picard. So has she gone back to the ship? Who knows? Because she's not technically part of that crew. She's from that timeline, but she's working with them. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. Yeah. So what do you guys think will happen next week? I'll start with you, Mage.
Next week, I think we'll probably see Agnes on the loose some more. Maybe finally see her start assimilating an individual or two. I can't believe it didn't happen during the bar scene today.
It could be like a zombie. It could be like they could make the Borg out to be like zombies. It could be like that sort of thing. Like what? Yeah, it starts a chain reaction. But I think personally, if she does assimilate anyone, it's gonna. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I really don't. Would that be the right way to go? And then obviously the guy's having to rectify that. Or can they rectify that?
It would open up a whole other can of worms, and it's probably too late in the season for that. they've got so many loose ends to tie up and so little time to do it that it's hopefully it doesn't end up feeling rushed and shoehorned in the end. Maybe they can tie up all the loose ends without rushing it.
This could be an Amanda Grayson type situation. She was the young Q from TNG whose parents were 2Q who hid on Earth as humans. Picard's mum might not be what she seems that, and that means is what are you trying to say that Picard's mum is a fucking Q? Because that would make Picard a Q and he'd be one of the most powerful beings in the universe, which he doesn't come across as because the guy couldn't even fucking beat up what's his face from Generation, Roddy McDowell's character. Yeah. Anyways, I'm going on a tangent. But honestly, I really don't want that to be the case to any of us. That'll be one thing too many. You know, he's already got a robot body for fuck's sake. So, what do you think is going to happen next week, Cousin Cheeto?
I don't know. I mean, this episode in particular is where the plot threads start to kind of unravel for me. I feel like they were doing good for a while. Going into next week, obviously, we're going to have interrogation scenes with Guinan and Picard. We're probably going to see a little. Maybe Laris will probably be the one to break them out. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe she'll get wind that they've been apprehended. Seven and Raffi obviously looking for Agnes, and Rios showing the hot doctor his letting her join the 1,000 Mile High Club. I don't know. I mean,
yeah, for sure. You have to find a babysitter for that kid, though.
Yeah, that's kind of another thing. Is like I thought is like what if the mom dies and then he takes the kid into the future? That was my other thought. I was going to mention earlier and I forgot.
That could happen actually.
Yeah,
that would be poignant too.
Yeah. So I mean, because they are building him up as a father figure for this other kid, and so yeah, we want him to get with the hot doctor too. But at the same time, what if something happens to her, she dies, and then he decides to stay behind to take care of the kid in his mom's stead. So it could go many ways. I mean, I kind of like that idea rather than both of them going into the future. As I said, it's just carbon copy from Voyage Home. I don't want the Borg Queen. I don't want Agnes Queen Agnes.
Yeah, I want them to stop her in her tracks.
I don't want her to start assimilating people. I don't want her to start having Borg proto Borg running around that you're right that are like zombies. Because if you think about it, when the Borg assimilate people, they normally they do kind of get the veins and the nanites start taking over, but they still have to go to like an assembly station to be turned into Borg. You know what I mean? Like they still have to have some limbs replaced. They still have to have a lot of their hardware put in. They don't just develop it like that. So I mean, proto Borg would just kind of look like zombies without all the I mean, they'd get some mechanical structures on them, but it would be within the limits of what the nanites can produce, which they can't produce like everything on the exterior of a Borg. They can start taking over stuff inside the body, but outside the body, it would just look like, like a zombie pretty much. So I think you're right on the money. You'll probably, if you do get assimilation, they'll probably just look like zombies. And I mean, but I don't want that. Like they did this in Enterprise and I
hated that.
Yeah. And I didn't hate it, but I knew why everybody was frustrated with it and that's why everybody says that there's a first contact timeline. Like there's a totally different first contact timeline that started because they went back in time. And then that moment when those Borg became unfrozen was a variance in the time, or no, I'm sorry. First contact was a variant in the timeline, and which is what led up to Enterprise. So technically Enterprise is in the first contact timeline and the prime timeline is over here. Anyway, long story. That's a conversation for
Q said that no human being has ever seen a Borg before.
Yeah, and that would be another plot hole.
Yeah, but then obviously by going back in time, they were theoretically a human being from the past has seen that black lady who was dancing with him in the holodeck and mentioned how the Borg sound Swedish and shit like that. She would have, she's from a different timeline, so she saw the Borg before, if you know where I'm coming from, you know.
Yeah,
I'm
I
sorry,
know exactly.
I'm getting
That's
big
why I'm saying
tongue-tied.
like first contact timeline start. Like that's why I think that there are 3 timelines, not just not Kelvin, Prime Kelvin, and there's also first contact timeline. And that's as I said, that's a highly illogical podcast we can dive into one day. Now that we've got 3 of us who's actually into Trek.
I
But
need to
yeah,
know what. Sorry, I need to know what's behind the door. Helen saw in Picard's nightmare. The more that she mentioned was still hidden just before. You know what? I don't give a fuck.
I was just gonna say this.
I
I
don't give
don't
a
give a
fuck, Daniel
shit.
Vance. I don't give a shit about fucking Picard's mindset and his fucking mom being a crazy bitch. I don't care about all of that. You know what I mean? And if there's any more revelations and stuff like that, Picard's at the end of his fucking life, and now this shit's starting to haunt him. Never
I know,
haunted him
right?
for
Like
yeah.
where's this been? That's what I feel like. A lot of this trauma should have been affecting him for years. And I understand they're like, oh, as a Starfleet captain, he separated himself from whatever, his emotion and and dealing with his issues, and that's why he's never been in a long-standing relationship and bullshit like that. And I'm like, dude's almost dead. Like, like I don't understand.
He would be if they hadn't turned him into some, put him in a robot, basically. But no, maybe
Yeah.
I think they're trying to book it as he's been repressing all that all these years or something like that. But no, I wanted to see more of who the character was out of this show, but I don't think going back that far is a good way to build that. Maybe.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree too. But unfortunately now this is how it is, and if this situation with his mum, even though I do feel they have left it open, hopefully it won't be resolved this season. Maybe they'll bookend it next season, and I could just about live with that, But I think people will expect some bookend to this, because it has been left open. But honestly, I wish they just never opened up this can of worms in the first place. It's a stupid arc. I really don't like it.
Well,
Regret. Yeah.
I say I really don't mind them actually, like him having memories of his mother and stuff like that. That I don't mind. But like this whole repressed memory and all this other bullshit. And I get what Daniel Vance is saying, that regret weighs heaviest on when you're nearing the end of the road. But at the same time, it's like I don't know. I feel like it's just shoehorned in at this point.
It's a lot different than the TNG era where they barely acknowledged any current trauma. You have 2 episodes where Picard works through, his assimilation in the beginning of season 4, and then it's never addressed again until First Contact.
Yeah.
They seem to, be made of.
No, he had that moment with Hugh. They brought it up then, didn't they? The fact that he was assimilated with Hugh.
Yeah,
the Hugh episode.
You're right. You're very right.
Yeah.
But I don't think they didn't make that seem like it was a heavy trauma though. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was more, it seemed like, if I'm remembering, it's been a long time since I watched that episode. But I mean, if I remember right with Hugh, it was more like, he understands what you're going through, but they never made it seem like it was a huge trauma at this point to Picard, because it had been a couple seasons, like 2 seasons prior. So it was like, oh, well, that was 2 seasons ago. We're good. And like, I agree. Like he actually didn't show actual emotion about being assimilated until from the end of Best of Both Worlds all the way up. And then you didn't see really much at all emotion until First Contact. That's when he actually, you saw the PTSD that he got with the collective and everything like that.
I throw it in the same sort of thing as the sort of issues Kirk had with the Klingons regarding the death of his son. Like it was very quickly dealt with in episode 3, which I didn't like in a way. I thought he should have suffered a bit more. Very briefly mentioned in Voyage Home when Sarek left the crew and mentioned how David saved them. and nothing really at all in 5 and 6. It was brought up as a plot point.
Honestly, no. I'll disagree with you on that. 6, it was a cornerstone of that movie.
No, I know. I didn't mean to say it as a plot point, but they used it in 6. You know, like
Yeah.
But
I
it was
loved it. You know,
dropped
like let them
until
die. I loved that. That was so
Yeah.
good.
But
sorry. But
I'm sorry. So you're saying that it was a dropped plot point until that point, until you get to episode 6 or movie 6.
well, you would have thought the death of his son would have traumatized him. I mean, he was pushing it to one side a little bit, but you would have thought it would have traumatized him a little bit more. Like,
well, the
his
thing is
son's
that he had
dead.
interactions with Klingons in Star Trek 5, and I don't think there was any mention of that. You know, he actually, you know,
Yeah.
you're right. I mean, it was a drop plot point from basically the beginning of 4 all the way through to like the beginning of 6.
Yeah.
Anyway,
But anyway,
back on track.
Back on track. I'll quickly give you my thoughts on it. I think they're gonna have to come up with some sort of mind erasing thing, because like too many people, like not just that FBI agent, pretty much everyone who fucking busted in there might know about it, unless somehow only he knows about it.
And they and the soldiers just know they're there to, or the agents just know they're there to get them.
Yeah, but I just feel like that's a significant thing. They have there. I'm surprised, you know, nobody's come looking for the cop, the French cop. Like, he's a fucking cop. You know what I mean?
And they knew where he was. They knew they were at him. He was at Chateau de Picard. Like, he said he was going in there. So
yeah, so that like Jesus Christ, yeah. So these are some massive plot holes right now. They need to deal with. It's going to be interesting. I mean, obviously, I don't expect everything to be wrapped up next week, because it is only episode 8 out of 10. So we will expect some more shenanigans possibly, and maybe some more problems to occur. Who knows? But yeah, I do feel we're going to get an interrogation episode next week regarding
and a
Picard.
chase.
Yeah, Picard and Guinan, and obviously Guinan, you know, because she did mention, you know, about, you know, racial issues and problems and stuff like that. We'll see how that pans out for her as well. Whether she feels that she's being, you know, unfairly treated and all of that sort of stuff. So we'll see how that pans out. You know, so anyway, so that is Picard season 2, episode 7, Monster. A very unusual episode, a little bit underwhelming. That was still Tommy Gunn wielding Picard, the Picard who was willing to use Hugh as a weapon to the collective. They took first contact, and him being called Ahab, that he realized how he viewed the Borg. Yeah. And I love him making peace with Worf. That was my favorite bit. You're the bravest man I've ever known. I love that. You know, like, oh, gets me right in the fucking feels, man. Anyways, anyway, I'm losing track. But yeah, so we'll see what happens next week regarding episode 8. I want the show to end now. I don't know about how you guys feel.
If it's going to keep unraveling like this, I would much rather, like, honestly, after they got Renee and they secured all that, I mean, if it's going to unravel like this, I kind of wish it did end last episode when, like, you know,
I want some more interaction with the fucking Q.
Yeah,
like, seriously, like, he's like use the Q, for fuck's sake. He's there. Use him. Use John Delancey. You know what I mean? Give him a paycheck. Use him.
Yeah, you gave him a paycheck. Use him more.
Yeah, use him more. You know, so do you think we'll see some like, I always mention this regarding the MCU, but as we're in the Star Trek multiverse, do you think we'll see, maybe not necessarily next week, but this season, some cameos of other Star Trek characters?
I think
maybe a Riker. I mean, it wouldn't be. I mean, Riker is in everything nowadays, but he's already been in season 1, so maybe not. But yeah, okay, fair enough. Maybe a Janeway. No, I always wanted to see Admiral Janeway and Picard, you know, just like on the same screen together, not fucking talking through a communication device. But we'll see how that pans out as well.
I mean,
All
she,
right,
she has to fill her war crimes quota. So I mean,
yeah. Well, anyway, guys, anything more to say? Major Rage?
No, I think we covered a lot of good points tonight. I enjoyed it, but they could have, where was Sung? Where was Q? You guys pretty much said everything that I never got a chance to say.
Cool, no problem. Cousin Cheeto?
That came out wrong. That I didn't get around to saying.
I get what you mean.
Yeah. I mean, if you're talking about like what we have coming down the pike, tomorrow, me and Major Rage recorded a about 50 some minute discussion on the new Dragon Ball Super movie that's coming out now. It has been announced for June 11th.
Oh, really? A new Dragon Ball movie?
Yeah, Dragon Ball Superhero. Look it up.
Okay. What's the animation style? Is it modernized, or does it still look like it was from the 80s?
No, it's more modernized. It's a mixture of computer graphics and hand drawn. It looks okay. It looks pretty good. It's not as good.
Does it feel like it has the spirit of
Yes.
as long as it has the spirit, that's what matters.
So but yeah, we recorded this earlier this week. So I do say in that video that I'm like, oh, the date hasn't been announced yet, but they actually announced it for June 11th today. So but yeah, that was a great discussion with Mage. We've actually talked about doing more like here and there, peppering in some Dragon Ball content as things happen. So not like a weekly thing or anything like that, but just like whatever tickles our ball sacks, we'll talk about. So every now and then. So also more Final Fantasy content will be coming out. We're trying to get some more of that filmed. Fan film reactions, more and more stuff. I don't know. I mean, we've got our reviews, Picard and Moon Knight. And My Young Justice review will probably be up later on tonight. So yeah, we're still doing our thing. Was there a Halo episode today?
Yeah, there was a Halo episode. Ginger's doing the review for that. I just want to quickly say that I'm watching this, but my God, the lack of action is driving me nuts. Like, this is fucking Halo. I want to see Master Chief shooting the shit out of everything, and we're not getting that. Like, give me that. Give me that. It's just driving me nuts. It's driving me nuts. Like, they're trying to play it like Game of Thrones and Witcher and all of that. It's taking itself way too seriously, for fuck's sake. It's ridiculous. Like, be a bit more entertaining. At least I'll give that with Star Trek. Like, Star Trek is somehow it ticks all the boxes. It's able to take itself seriously to a degree, not all the time, and not in every episode. It is entertaining, and it can give you the pew pews and the action packs and the wham bam, thank you ma'ams, all of that shit. It can give you all of that. I just wish fucking Halo would give me that. You can't have a show about a fucking this
military soldier,
elite soldier killing machine with no emotions and stuff like that, and not have any action scenes other than what we had in the pilot episode, which was superb. That's supposed to draw you in, but now they're trying to lure you in with some story. But you could also throw in an action scene here or there. Like, I'll just 4 episodes in now, I haven't had an action scene since episode 1. It's just not good enough. But I'm gonna watch this season and see how it pans out. But at least Ginger, he's the one doing the reviews on that. Thank fucking God. I don't want to be doing the reviews on this shit. But yeah, so and if there's anything else that tickles my fancy, I'll review it. I might start streaming some Hearthstone, but I love it. You call yourself Major Rage. You ever play Hearthstone, Mage?
Oh yeah, the Blizzard game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I used to play it a lot. It was pretty fun. I haven't played in a long time.
Oh, fair enough. I'm still playing it now, you see. But a new expansion came out on the 12th of April. And so I'm just fondling that right now and making up my decks. I mainly play as a rogue. I like playing as a rogue. So that's what I do. So anyway. All right, guys. Thank you. I think we're done here. So thank you very much for watching. Have a nice day. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to NerdTube, the greatest YouTube channel you never heard of. We'll see you guys later. And may the force be with you.